$3 billion, 10 armored trucks, 76 tons of methamphetamine, and just 2 hours for U.S. Special Forces to make it all disappear. This is the story of how America reached deep into the Venezuelan highlands, dismantled a criminal empire that had operated untouched for years, and vanished before sunrise, leaving nothing but smoke, silence, and a message that echoed across every cartel boardroom in the hemisphere. 2:14 a.m. local time. The mountain mist clings to everything. Trees, rocks, the camouflaged faces of U.S. operators lying motionless in the undergrowth above Venezuela's western border. Through the sticky darkness, an MQ-9 Reaper drone glides silently overhead, its infrared scanners sweeping the twisted switchbacks of a narrow highland road below. 10 heavy trucks crawl forward through the night, each cargo trailer wrapped in steel plating and layered with chemical camouflage designed to defeat sensors and detection systems. But even the best camouflage cannot hide the subtle heat signatures that precision technology picks up with cold efficiency. In the hush before violence, the assault team waits. One whispered command travels through encrypted comms. Green light on my mark. For a heartbeat, everything holds. Then the tension cracks like ice under pressure. The silent mountain passes through a fulcrum of decision, and what happens next will shake a $3 billion empire to its foundations. This is not about one convoy. This is about the Sierra Verde Cartel, a power machine that has carved absolute control over one of Latin America's most dangerous corridors. They dominate western Venezuela's routes to Colombia and the Caribbean, moving illicit goods and influence through remote mountain passes that law enforcement had long ago written off as unreachable. But tonight, they're about to learn that nowhere is unreachable anymore. According to intelligence compiled over 6 months by the DEA, Southcom, and elements of JSOC, Sierra Verde produces more than 40 tons of methamphetamine monthly, enough to flood American streets many times over. Their yearly revenues exceed $3 billion. These aren't just staggering numbers. They represent logistical sophistication, financial reach, and a boldness few criminal organizations dare to claim. To move that volume of narcotics requires specially armored trucks camouflaged to resemble agricultural freight, each outfitted with radar sensors and GPS jamming systems. Heavy steel cladding and chemical treatments obscure sight and smell, but they can't hide everything. On this night, Sierra Verde has loaded 76 tons of pure methamphetamine onto one convoy, alongside $220 million in cash hidden in fortified crates. That level of simultaneous transport is almost unheard of. Cartels typically break shipments into smaller loads to minimize detection risk. So why would Sierra Verde gamble everything on one move? Arrogance? Desperation? Or had someone guaranteed they'd pass unscathed? They were wrong. For 6 months, U.S. agencies meticulously tracked Sierra Verde's finances, communications, and satellite signals. Intelligence teams followed money trails to offshore accounts, intercepted encrypted communications, and patiently mapped routes through mountainous terrain. Every piece of data mattered. A GPS ping, a bank transaction, a fuel purchase in a remote village. Together, they formed a map pointing straight at this convoy on this night. When Washington concluded that all intelligence led to this single highway, the decision was made: strike now. High above the switchback road, the Reaper hangs like a silent sentinel. From that height, the convoy looks ordinary at first. 10 heavy trucks, headlights muted, engines ticking through the darkness. But the Reaper sees what human eyes cannot. Thermal signatures light up like ghosts, warm seams where hidden compartments hug chemical vats, faint heat pools betraying recently running motors, metallic reflections cutting through the low clouds. When the drone's radar completes its sweep, operators cross-check every anomaly, layering thermal maps over radar returns and flagging 3 trailers as high-value targets. Below, 2 Ranger squads and a SEAL element lie folded into the landscape, boots buried in leaf litter, weapons angled, breath measured. 2 Apache attack helicopters wait on pre-planned positions, rotors low, sensors primed. Voices are whispers, coordinates flow through earpieces like a quiet river of commands. At 2:26 a.m., The decision comes. Green light. In the space of 12 minutes, everything transforms from surveillance to violence. The Reaper's operator holds the feed like a pulse monitor, while the Apaches roll their sensors toward targets. In one synchronized heartbeat, the killbox closes. Hellfire missiles and 30mm cannon fire rip into the lead vehicles. Ground teams surge from concealment, racing along pre-cut paths to corral survivors and secure evidence. The assault is not chaos, it's choreography. Air and ground working in a single merciless rhythm. This is classic Overwatch kill zone work. Fix the enemy in place with overwhelming firepower, then close to finish. The tactic favors speed and shock, leaving little time for commanders to react and fewer chances for reinforcements to arrive. For Sierra Verde, the intent had been simple: move a vast fortune and product and cash without pause. For the strike force, the plan is to break that movement before it breathes. Then a sharp alarm threatens everything. Midway down the column, a single armored hauler blinks. An emergency radio burst, brief and encoded, a panic signal sent from inside the convoy. In an instant, the clean plan stiffens. That beacon could call scouts, trigger roadblocks, or warn a nearby outpost. Commanders react immediately. The Reaper widens its scan. Apaches reprioritize targets. Flank teams tighten their net. What might have been a controlled dismantling becomes a race against time as tracer lines streak and diesel trucks glow orange under incoming fire. At 2:38 a.m., the silence shatters completely. The first burst from an AC-105 gunship's 105mm cannon thunders across the valley, a deep concussion that rolls through the mountains like a drumbeat of judgment. In the infrared feed, each round looks like a comet falling to Earth, its arc ending in a blossom of fire that tears through the lead trucks. The air erupts with heat and light. Within seconds, the convoy's front line is gone, reduced to burning wreckage that lights the fog in violent orange.
Downrange, Cartel gunners scramble from the remaining vehicles. Sierra Verde fighters are no amateurs. They move fast, taking cover behind steel containers and returning fire with PKM machine guns and RPGs. Tracers stitch across the darkness, but the Apaches are already locked on. From above, their targeting pods track every muzzle flash. A single Hellfire streaks downward, striking the slope beside an RPG team, scattering debris and shockwaves across the ridgeline. Each time the Cartel fires, their position reveals itself. And each time, the Apaches answer faster. On the ground, special operators advance in Delta formation, overlapping fields of fire, pushing steadily uphill. Their movements are methodical, almost surgical, clearing one flank at a time. Small arms crack in rhythm with deeper percussion from overhead. Through the drone's IR camera, the scene looks otherworldly. White-hot silhouettes darting between trees, bursts of heat marking explosions. Then suddenly, a blinding flare. One of the trucks, its trailer filled with compressed methamphetamine, takes a direct hit. The detonation is instant and catastrophic. A column of flame and chemical smoke shoots 100 meters into the sky, illuminating the mountain like daylight. The shockwave ripples through the camera feed, momentarily washing everything in static. That blast breaks the convoy's cohesion. Cartel survivors scatter, some abandoning weapons, others dragging wounded men away from the inferno. Rangers tighten the noose, cutting escape routes, while SEAL elements secure the rear. Each movement is guided by real-time data from the Reaper above, creating a perfect loop of coordination between air and ground. This is the essence of modern combined arms warfare. Aircraft owning the sky, special forces mastering the ground, each amplifying the other's reach. Within 20 minutes, resistance thins to sporadic bursts and fading echoes. Yet amid the fading noise, something doesn't fit. The pattern of retreat is too clean, too fast, as if part of the enemy force simply melted away rather than been destroyed. Operators find intact trucks, half-loaded, some engines still running, but with no drivers in sight. That uneasy realization hangs in the air like smoke. Had the convoy only been bait? By 3:15 a.m., gunfire has faded into fog, leaving only the hiss of smoldering engines and the hum of rotor blades. Strike teams regroup, pushing north along a narrow mountain pass guided by infrared markers from the Reaper above. The drone's sensors pick up something odd beyond the ridge. a faint geometric outline under the tree canopy. It isn't natural terrain. The feed sharpens, revealing structures buried in the hillside, angular, cold, invisible to the naked eye. As teams advance in silence, the jungle opens to a sight few expected. 8 concrete bunkers embedded into the mountain, connected by steel walkways, partially covered with camouflage netting. Each bunker has ventilation shafts, backup generators, and reinforced blast doors. The air smells of solvents and ozone, telltale traces of chemical production. Inside, hidden behind heat-resistant walls, the cartel has built its crown jewel, an industrial methamphetamine complex capable of producing over 10 tons weekly. This isn't a crude jungle lab, it's precision engineering, closer to a pharmaceutical facility than a criminal hideout. Generators hum quietly until one SEAL team cuts the main power line with a shaped charge. Sparks flare, lights die. In that sudden darkness comes the crash of breaching tools and the thunder of flashbangs. Room by room, operators move in. Resistance is brief but violent. Sporadic gunfire, then silence. Within minutes, 22 cartel members are on the ground, hands zip-tied, faces pressed to concrete. Among them is a heavy-set man in his 40s, identified as El Toro, Sierra Verde's field commander and one of the most wanted traffickers in the hemisphere. Exhausted, covered in chemical residue, he offers no fight. His capture sends a jolt through the command network. They've just pulled the brain out of the cartel's entire regional operation. When dawn breaks, the scale becomes clear. Stacks of sealed barrels line corridors, labeled with false shipping codes. Piles of cash, US dollars and euros, stack waist-high, totaling hundreds of millions. More alarming are rows of hard drives and encrypted laptops found in the control room. Forensic specialists will later confirm they contain financial ledgers mapping a global laundering network stretching far beyond Latin America. Money moving through shell firms in Hong Kong, real estate fronts in Panama, logistics intermediaries in Istanbul. Between evidence bags and seized equipment, analysts uncover another revelation. The lab's centrifuges and distillation units bear serial markings from Eastern suppliers. Some machine parts traced to manufacturers in Shenzhen and Novosibirsk, routed through intermediaries to avoid export controls. What first appeared as a drug raid is evolving into something larger, a portrait of a transnational web where technology and capital flow freely to sustain a criminal economy. At 4:05 a.m., the mountain shakes. Charges detonate in perfect sequence, rows of C4 buried in the foundations of 8 bunkers. The first explosion rips through the central lab, throwing a plume of fire into the pre-dawn air. The next wave follows half a second later, a rolling chain of detonations that cracks the ridge like thunder. From miles away, villagers describe the sound as a storm underground. The mountain collapses inward, burying what remains of Sierra Verde's empire beneath thousands of tons of rock. Above the chaos, the AC-130 makes its return pass. Engines low, cannon silent, but sensors still alive, scanning for thermal signatures. The feed comes back clean. The target zone, once alive with movement, now pulses only with the slow cooling of the grid. The cartel's last stronghold has gone dark. By the time the final blast echoes into silence, the toll is clear. 60 cartel fighters confirmed dead or captured. The rest fled into the jungle, weaponless, disoriented, leaderless. Without command structure, without labs, trucks, or the network that kept them funded, Sierra Verde's regional operations ceased to exist. 2 hours ago, it had been a $3 billion trafficking route. Now it's a smoking crater, a broken artery cut clean from the criminal bloodstream. For Washington, the numbers tell a powerful story. 76 tons of pure methamphetamine destroyed before export. Over 50 million doses that will never reach American streets. Hundreds of millions in cash seized. The financial collapse of an organization that once bribed politicians, armed militias, and traded openly in weapons and drugs. Yet officially, there's no celebration, no press conference, no coordinates. The Pentagon confirms a successful multinational counter-narcotics operation, but declines to identify where or when. Venezuelan officials issue denials. Local radio describes only mysterious explosions near the Colombian border. Behind closed doors, though, U.S. Southern Command marks it as one of the most decisive strikes in recent memory. An operation that not only crippled a cartel, but demonstrated that geography is no longer a shield. This mission was never about one convoy or one laboratory. It was about sending a message. The precision, coordination, and timing spoke louder than any statement. The United States showed it could reach deep into hostile terrain, strike with overwhelming force, and vanish before dawn without leaving a trace. Distance no longer means safety. Satellites, drones, and data have replaced borders and bureaucracy. In the weeks following the strike, shockwaves spread far beyond the mountains. Sierra Verde's network collapsed almost overnight. Intelligence intercepts confirmed regional commanders either fled across the Colombian border or went silent. Within 3 weeks, U.S. Southern Command reported a 60% drop in methamphetamine traffic entering South American transit hubs, a decline so sharp it rippled across financial channels tied to the trade. Banks flagged dormant accounts, shell firms froze under scrutiny. As the smoke cleared from Venezuelan hills, one truth lingered. What began as a 2-hour strike had become a geopolitical message, a quiet declaration that distance, secrecy, and political boundaries can no longer protect those who profit from chaos. Across boardrooms and backrooms from Bogota to Shanghai, that message resonated. The reach of American power remains unmatched. And beneath that triumph, a question hangs in the air. How far will Washington go to dismantle the machinery behind the cartels? One thing is certain: there is nowhere left to hide.